I am back with another installment of 100 World Coins identified for $20. Now, recently in this series, we've been getting out of each of these maybe 3 or 4 coins that are really, really good, and then several coins that are similar to ones I already have that have a decent book value, and some stuff that's not so good. So recently we've gotten a lot of coins from Britain, Australia, Sweden, Norway. We've been getting too many clean coins, mostly from Britain, some from Australia, some from Japan. But after that, it's been a pretty good mix. This dealer used to have 50 coins for $10, and so they've doubled the size of their bags on here. So let's kind of zoom out here and take a look at what we're going to be going through in this particular bag. And I will say that there are usually prices for most of these written in pencil on these coins, and almost always they are accurate to what the book value says, unless they're not grading the condition right, or if it's cleaned and you shouldn't be expecting that price for a clean coin. But let us dig in. And top here, I see a coin from Mexico. That is not something that we need. I have a lot of these already, 5 centavos from 1966. There are 3 or 4 different versions of this coin, and I will say that this one is pretty nice condition for it, although it's not really something that I would want to intentionally pick up. From another from Mexico that they say is worth 80 cents. I get a lot of these, but some of the older ones have a decent value to them. From Japan, something with the decent foreign exchange value would be worth about 60 cents. They say it's worth $1.50. The 100 yen, that's pretty common though. So common that I just picked up another one. They say this one's worth $2. Now, the dealer that sells this to me, she's Asian, and so their store name is White Tiger, and I believe they're out of Alabama, so I've seen them at shows in different southern states, in case you happen to ever run across them. But at least because of that, she is familiar with these currencies and can knows how to identify it. Of course, it actually has 44 written on here, which would be easy to pick up. But if it was just the Japanese characters, and that was something that you would have trouble with, it would help you out. Back to Mexico, we've got a 25 centavos. I do like the portraits on this coin, but with most of these Mexican coins, I probably have too many of them already. So here's our first example of a clean coin. I will say it's at least it's an older coin, very well worn. I mean, I guess it gives it a nice eye appeal if you weren't that familiar with you shouldn't be cleaning coins, but we got a Victoria coin from 1862. So, I mean, it's old. It's worth $1, I guess. Here we got one from Switzerland, so it's the one wrapping. I usually find that one in decent condition. They say that was worth $1. Okay, another one from Mexico. This one is, I believe, a larger version of the 5 centavos from the first one that we picked up. So, like I mentioned earlier, there are different varieties. And it looks like we're going to get a lot of Mexican coins out here, because that's our second one of that particular coin. We've got the low 1 yen out here. But they say it's worth $5, probably because it's an older one from 1959. I would be surprised that a 1 yen that old has that value, but we've been getting a lot of these British sixpence also. They say that one's worth 35 cents. Then we've got a Mexico 10 centavos here. There are a couple of varieties to look out for on this coin, depending on the row of coin. Some of them have a 6th row that go up halfway, and others are just 5 rows, I believe. So need to double check the catalog on that one. They say it's worth $1. With as low value as it is, it's not one that I find as often as some of the others. And then from Norway, we've got this krona that they say is worth $7. because it's from 1950. So Some of these Swedish Norway coins that are more than, let's say, 70 or 80 years old have had a decent price to them. I don't think this one would be silver, but I don't know that for sure. But it'd be nice if that one does book for $7. But back to Mexico, we've got the 100 peso. That's not worth a whole lot. And then the 5 peso that they say is worth 45 cents. On here, another one from Mexico is the 1 peso from the late 80s. The fun fact that I like to share about this one is U.S. vending machines had trouble distinguishing this from a United States quarter. So a lot of people would come in and spend these in U.S. vending machines. They shouldn't have been doing that. So this is not a coin from Brazil. This is a low value 1 sen coin from Japan. In a previous year, I'd got a lot of this coin from this dealer. So I finally had a chance to sell off most of them and getting them back. Now for Mexican coins, this one is a better one because it's a larger coin featuring the Mayan culture. It's a 20 peso from the early 80s. So at least that one is a nicer coin to pick up. Then we have a cleaned Japanese 10 yen. I got too many of these already, so I do not like seeing that. We've been getting a lot of these Swiss coins recently also, that some of these Swiss coins in older dates, if they're in better condition, can have a decent value. This one is not a better condition coin, so it only has a book value of 80 cents. And then our next Mexican coin, we've got another of these 20 centavos. Newer but better condition. They have a value on that one. They say it's worth 80 cents. Seems like we're getting a lot of coins worth 80 cents in this video. We've gotten a few of these iron 1 ore coins. This one's from 1919. They say that one's worth $5. Those are hard to find in decent condition. We've got a British penny that is thankfully not clean, 1904, so Edward VII. They say that one's worth $6, and so glad to find it not cleaned out of here. Then our next 10 yen, this one is not cleaned, thank goodness. But I do have a lot of them, so I don't really need those. This one looks pretty nice for the age, 1937. George VI. That one's in, I like getting that one out of here. Just don't need too many of them. But at least a lot of these, I don't need these Mexican coins because I already get them a lot already, but at least they look like they're better condition than some. We've got our next Japan 100 yen that books for $1.50, they say. Our next one of these, and this one they only say is worth 15 cents, so I would not like to get a lot of those in here. Different kind of peso, so at least they're pointing out a variety on this one, that it's the short date version of the 1975s. So if you're looking for varieties, that one could make it an interesting thing to find. Norway, they say this one is worth $15 because of the year 1921. So I'm going to pause for a moment and look this one up, see if they're really accurate about the value on this one, since they're claiming it's worth 15. Let me pause and find out. Okay, so you can make a valid argument for this one. I would not say it's worth $15, but looking at the catalog, the older usually means it's more valuable, and of course there are dates that are key dates. This one is not a key date, but it is an older one. There were just a tick over 2 million of these minted. But here's what I found funny on the catalog. If you found it fine, book value 60 cents. If you found it very fine, book value $1. If you found it extra fine, the book value is $19. And then uncirculated books for 60. And so, you tell me if you think this is extra fine. The letter's a little bit worn Here at the bottom, the details of the crown. I don't know how many details this should have. Maybe. This coin was made from, I think, all the way back to 1909 up until about the early 50s, interrupted for the World Wars, where they had a zinc version. But I'm not going to say that's worth 15, but I don't know on that. So we've got a very simple 1 peso from 1980, and then here's another peso from 1972 that's worth 20 cents, and then another peso that's worth 20 cents. So don't like seeing all these in a row. But we're back to Norway. This one is a 1 ore from 1911. They're saying this one is worth $12. Now the condition on this one is better details, so that's probably what the crown should have looked like on the last one, but I don't know, is that cleaning on here? And then, or is it just still has luster with some stains on it and a lot of scratches? I think when it looks like this, even if it was original luster, I don't like the eye appeal on something like that. Please tell me they didn't think that was $200, that meant this was $2 for something. No, that was a flip for something else. But sometimes just the fact that they reuse these flips makes me laugh. So we've got an older one of these that they say is worth $1.40, and then at least I like this coin. Now it's stuck inside the flip because they only used 2 staples on it, but this one isn't one that was used made for very long, just a couple of years, but it features the Olmec culture. So it's a design they don't see as often, but I'm happier getting this one than some of these other coins. And then, let's see, okay, so here we have a probably clean, but we've had some others in this series that were clean and also almost no details left to it. This one is pretty good detail. So British controlled India, 1862 on this one. $2.20. I'm surprised that one would only have that book price because they haven't been accurate about the cleaning on some of these. But we've got our next one of those pesos that I don't wish it to have. Here is one from Taiwan. They just wrote down the Republic of China, which I guess is technically more accurate. So year 44, a 4 and a plus and a 4 means 44, so that translates to 1955. They say that one's worth $1. I do like how they have the island of Taiwan on that particular coin. That is a low denomination coin. They call it a 10 cents or 1 chow. On here, back to a coin that's not from Colombia but from Mexico, we've got, this is the largest version of the 5 centavos. They say that one's worth 90 cents. And then we've got another 100 peso they say that one's better condition and worth $1. Going back to Norway, we've got this one that they say is worth $7, and I would have never thought to pay $7 for this coin. But it comes from Olav V, where he has different animals on the coins. So at least I like those about it. We've got our next peso worth 60 cents, and another peso for 60 cents. Now these are better shape than some of the other ones that we've seen out of here, but this is seeming to be the big Mexico bag, where we've had others, not as much from Australia as we've seen in some others, but we've got 50 cents on value on that one. Okay, here's one that's different. It's the 5 pesos from, weird placement to have 3 staples, I must say. So not only did they reuse a flip, they reused a flip where someone had stamped 1956. Actually had a stamp that they used for this, and that ink has gotten on the coin or is on the flip. No, that got on the coin because I'm moving it inside the flip. That's got ink on it. That's a shame. Now it's only worth 80 cents, but this is a nice coin because it's a larger coin and has good details to it. So let's see, our next 100 peso. When I was a young collector and I found these, I thought they were wonderful. And fast forward to today, and I've got so many of them. So here's our first 10 centavos from Mexico, and then our first of the 50 centavos or 50. So again, we've got a variation on what they call the square 9. I don't think any of these variations have a significant value to them because I've looked up some of them before. Here's our next 25 centavos for 30 cents. About a third one of those. Here's an older centavo. This one's quite a bit older. They say 1889. Well, I guess the coin says 1889. Definitely it ends in a 9. That looks like an 8 on the camera. Say it's worth $2. 391.6. This goes to a time where each mint has its own number after the dot on here. But if they're writing MO, then that probably means it's the Mexico City, which would be the most common mint mark for any of these. So that one's kind of neat. I didn't notice the mint mark on there, but I do like these, the half peso or the 50 centavos when it was copper. Quite a large coin. And that one's nice shape. 1956, and they say it's worth $3. So I'm okay getting that one. But don't need any more of those, even though they say it's worth $1. I've got enough of those. And in this video, I've got enough of these. And here we have a cleaned one. At least it's the way it's got a shine to it. Only be worth 35 cents anyway. I don't know that I've ever seen a square flip that was so tiny of a window in it. And then we've got another one of these, except this one doesn't have any ink stains on it. So a nice larger coin where you can see some pretty good details on there. They say that one books for $1. Then our next 5 centavos that books for 50 cents. Here's something from Portugal. Got a half an escudo with this 50 centavos. But, ooh. That one's been glued to something, probably. But look at what the value could have been, $12.50. I'm guessing the condition and the age that they probably made this for about 30 years, and some of the newer ones wouldn't be worth $12.50, but that's tough to see something that has glue on it that has that value. So here's a tiny 10 peso with the hidalgo on it. Books for 30 cents. Another of these pesos. And another of these 5 centavos. The largest version. Better condition on that one, but I see another one in here. I don't remember getting hardly any of these Mexican coins in any other video, so it must be just this one bag. But then we've got another of those. And another of those. And our first to see the 1 centavo, the last 1 centavo, that's dated 1964. So again, at least this one's in good condition. Only worth 30 cents though. But let's dig from the back here. Got another older coin, so the 10 centavos are made out of copper nickel. 1946, pretty well worn on that one, but I like the look of this one. It reminds me of a compass. I mean, I guess that's what it's supposed to be. A little well worn on that one. So, another of those. Another of those. Okay, so here we've got one that an $18 coin, and whoever put this in here didn't even bother to get in a clip that would hold properly. That is a little bit too tight in there. But since we've got something a little bit different, I'm going to pause and see if this one really should book for $18. It's dated 1940 on this 1 krona. So this one is, again, condition dependent, and I think this one could justify an extra fine condition. They say that very fine books for $1.50, extra fine books for $12, and uncirculated MS-60 books for $45. So I don't know where they get for $18. I guess that's in the ballpark of what you could say, but I mean, at least that's a pretty decent coin out here. And so maybe we've had about 10 of those pesos so far. And then it's our second one of these. So here's our first one of these from Japan. It's a 50 sen, half a yen. From a short period where they had these coins made out of brass. 1948. Fortunately, it has a big ugly stain on it. But these are only made for a couple of years, so at least you don't see that one too often. Then another 10 yen that they say is worth $1 because of the age. And then next one of those. And okay, first one of these, it's the 500 peso. So they went up to 1,000 in their circulating pesos of the late 80s. Featuring Madaro. Why use such a tiny little flip for such a big coin? But they only say that one's worth 60 cents, but at least it's something different that I'm not overrun with those like some of these others. I've gotten a lot of these from this dealer. It is the 10 sen, number 10, made out of the metal tin, T-I-N, tin zinc from 1944, and I am glad that they identify it. I could figure it out on my own, but they saved me the trouble on there, so there's that benefit. Then let's see, next up, pulling from the back, we've got a bimetallic modern 1 peso from 2000. Still pretty easy to find those, so I don't need really any more of them. So here's our British penny that's in, I don't know if that one's cleaned or not. It's weird how it's a little bit lighter color in the grooves of the letters. But they say that one would book for $4. And so that one has a nice eye appeal, I'd say. And then we've got another one in a tiny flip. They say this one's worth $10. Let me pause on this one and, yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to look at the value of this one, see what the book value says this one is worth. So this one was the year of the smallest mintage of KM845, but that means that there were only 42 million of these made. So it's not rare by any means. But I was kind of surprised here because I would have thought they would have graded this as uncirculated. I'm not an expert as in MS-60 uncirculated. The book value on this one, extra fine, is $10. Uncirculated MS-60 has a book value of $60 on this coin. So now I don't see corrosion up here, do I? I don't think it's been cleaned. I mean, I see streaks going across, but I think the streaks are on the flip, not on the coin on here, but I mean, extra fine would be conservative on this, I guess, but not MS-16. But what do you think? on that one. So that one is decent if true. And then we're back to Mexico, where we've got another of these 20 centavos that they say is worth 60 cents. And then, well, we haven't had a bad clean coin in a while, so here we go, Edward VII, but it's dated 1902. And then, haven't had many from Sweden in this video like some of the previous videos. We've got the 25 ore here. And then our next coin from Mexico, we've got this next 20 centavos from 1955 that they say is worth $1. And then another of these, that might be the worst looking one that we've had, only books for 20 cents. Another Japanese 10 yen that I don't need. And then, I don't think we've seen this one today. The 50 peso with Juarez on it, 1986. I can't believe that one would be worth $7. Which means I have to look it up. Well, again, that is a defensible position. It's a key date for this, even though for this coin, key date means they made 50 million of these, but in 1985, they made 300 million of these. So the catalog says if you find this very fine, it's $6. If you find it extra fine, it's $10. Now, I'd say as far as the condition of the coin, details-wise, I guess you could go very fine and be okay with that, but it's got some staining on it that should take away from it, maybe. Not on that side. That side looks better, but I don't know how to count off when you get staining like that. I know a lot of dealers don't, but that's that one kind of surprised me that it would book for that. Then our next 5 centavos, and then another one of those. I think that one's worth $2. Okay, and then back to Switzerland. What's going on this flip? 1940, $6. I guess it's condition deserving of that, perhaps. We haven't had as many Swiss coins in this bag as some of the others, but I saved that and we've got another one. This is the 5 Rappen that's 1947. And then we've got the tiniest of the 5 centavos that books for 15 cents. There's someone that abbreviates extra fine as EF instead of XF. I've seen that from them before. And we've got another of these. And then, first one of these from Japan, we've got the 50 yen from year 49. They say where that one's worth $2. And then, I don't think we've had this one yet. Good details, but I don't like the streaks that run through that one. And then, that might be the prettiest one of these that we've found in the video so far, but we found too many of them is the problem. And there we go with another. Then the next one of those. This is one of these old. That looks pretty old. But condition looks nice on this one, so I like how that one at least looks pretty. One time someone wanted to sell that for 10 cents. And we haven't had a lot of Australia here, but if I remember from the first year of the Australian 1 cent, there were some varieties. They call this the blunt whisker. There's another variety that has to do with the length of the claw. So this is one of those where I have to go into Mista and find someone that's taken a picture of it just to kind of show you the differences between the two, because you're not really going to see it in the catalog. They say that's worth $11 because of it's a rare variety, I guess. And then flip looks pretty bad on here, but the coin is really turned dark in color here. 1943, so it's an older version of that coin. And our very last coin in this video is going to be this one from Thailand, which looks like a circulating commemorative. The 36th birthday of King Robert IX, which took place in 1963. So a lot more detail in this one than I usually see. This is not the normal circulating commemorative. I mean, not the normal circulating version of the coin, but I may have seen this one before. This one you don't see that often. I haven't picked up too many of these if I've had it. So let me do some math in my head here. 36th birthday was in 1963. Well, my brain's not working right now, but this one's a good way to end the video. I've liked getting coins from Thailand from this particular dealer because she labels them very, very well, and I've had trouble picking up details and years and things like that from this seller. So glad it finished off with that one. So I was going to say that I didn't find as many special coins in this lot as I've seen some of the others, but at least I haven't gotten the same countries that I've gotten in others. I hope I don't get that too many Mexican coins in the final bag out of this video, but we finish on a good note right there. And one more of these $20 bags to go that I'll probably release the video in another 3, 4, 5 weeks or so. And until then, I'll have some other coins that I've picked up at other local shows, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.